have seen the Orient star, and sweetly drawn I come from far, leaving the world behind. His spirit gently leads me on, a stranger in a land unknown, the newborn King to find. The word of all preventing grace marks out the Savior's natal place, and follower of the word, I keep his glimmering star inside, which by its sure unerring light conducts me to my Lord, the newborn King to find, conducts me to my Lord, the newborn King to find.
Gift giving is a treasured Christmas tradition. It's a good one, too, when done in the right spirit. We celebrate the birth of Christ by following his example of sharing with others. But have we taken gift giving down the wrong path? We frantically seek this year's hot item, trying to fulfill a child's outrageously long and demanding list. We're bombarded with TV ads that encourage us to rush out and buy things that do not enrich our lives. The Magi came seeking the Savior. They brought gifts fit for a king. As you hear the story from Matthew chapter 2, ask yourself, am I seeking Christ and bringing gifts in a way that is pleasing to God? In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet, and you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there, ahead of them, went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chest, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Stephanie Sparks will now help us to ponder how we receive Jesus and what gifts we bring to him.
The Magi sought Jesus. Matthew tells us they saw the star and they went looking for the one who's been born King of the Jews. Last week, we talked about the shepherds worshiping Jesus. And this week, we're talking about the Magi's journey, the journey of these wise men to worship him. It seems as though they both learned about his birth at the same time, yet it took the Magi a while longer than the shepherds to find him. Isn't it a gift in itself to be reminded that when we look for him, we will find Jesus? For the shepherds, it was declared and seems to have been quite a dramatic announcement. For the Magi, they were watching, and they noticed something changed in the sky. They recognized what it meant, and they sought after him. How are you seeking Jesus? How far are you willing to go to find him? And what is your response when you do find him? Gifts are a big thing at Christmas time. Sometimes we give them truly out of the heart. Sometimes we give them because it's expected. And sometimes we have resources upon resources and we can give as much as we want. While at other times we may not be able or available to offer anything or even offer any time. I love Christmas. I love Christmas music. I love coming across something that all but screams someone's name when I'm looking for a gift. I love when something reminds me of a memory or of a moment with someone. When asked recently about a meaningful gift I had been given, a gift came to mind that I see often, but rarely have stopped to really appreciate. 13 years ago, Christmas was different. Now, along with loving the Christmas season, I find myself pretty dependent on family traditions that surround the season. Sometimes, it's in the midst of all the chaos and tons of places to be that it can be most lonely. And those empty days on the calendar can be filled with knowing what's coming ahead, things that we can look forward to. Well, I was back in school, living with my parents, had just gone through a breakup, and all of a sudden my dad was transferred to Kentucky for his job. Well, all of a sudden mom and dad moved, I stayed in the house until it sold, and then came Christmas. My parents and youngest sister had plans to come down for the holidays, but they ended up coming down with the flu, and they didn't want to share that gift with us. So I found myself not knowing exactly what was going to happen. For as long as I can remember, we gather with my dad's family on Christmas Eve, and this year was no different. But this year, my grandparents insisted on me staying with them that night, and I was grateful for the invitation. On Christmas morning, I woke up and I did like I always do at their house, and I went out to the den through the kitchen. But when I got out there, my grandparents asked if I had looked under the tree. Since I walked through the kitchen, I didn't go into the living room where it was. So I turned back around, and I went back into the living room, and under the tree was a green handmade stocking that my great-grandmother had made, a quilt that had also been hers, and a snow globe with an angel inside. Anyone who has a nativity that includes the wise men will tell you that 3 guys brought gifts to Jesus who they understood to be the newborn King of the Jews. Now, it seems appropriate to note that many scholars have speculated, based on the time it took these men to travel, to ask their questions, and get to Jesus, he and Mary and Joseph probably weren't still hanging out in the stable waiting for their arrival. Jesus was probably a toddler by the time this visit happened. But tradition has taught us that these gifts brought by these men were not random. They each represent something about who Jesus was, who he would be. Gold represents Jesus our King. Frankincense represents Jesus, our priest, and myrrh represents Jesus, our healer. What gifts are you offering Jesus? Are you offering them for Jesus' sake or your own? Do you offer them out of a response of worship or out of obligation? My grandparents had already given me gifts the night before on Christmas Eve, along with the rest of my family. But what they offered me on Christmas morning went beyond Christmas. They offered gifts of comfort, of a memory that I'll cherish forever, and of love. I had a t-shirt one time that had a picture of baby Jesus swaddled in the manger, and it had these words printed on it: God wrapped his present too. Jesus is the ultimate gift. He offers us grace, life, and love. What do we offer him in return?